The New York Giants have won 2 Super Bowls in the past 7 seasons. So obviously they've done something right at some point in time. But it also is frustrating, I would have to imagine, if you're a Giants fan, because for those years that they won it all, they had those other years that they came up short and they were just flat out frustrating and disappointing to watch. And maybe that's just kind of the MO of the New York Giants. But 2013, they got off to a disastrous start. They tried to recover, but they just ultimately dug themselves too big of a hole, yes, even in the NFC least division. And the thing for the New York Giants is heading into 2014, this is frankly an organization that's kind of in a win now mode. You don't know how much longer Jerry Reese wants to be or will be the general manager there for the Giants. You don't know how much longer Tom Coughlin is going to coach for the New York Giants. Is this going to be his last season at the helm? How much longer is Eli Manning going to be the man? Is he going to be a franchise NFL quarterback? These are all questions that this organization has. So it puts them in a situation where they're in kind of a win now mentality. The problem is that they've lost some key players over the past couple of years via free agency. They've also had a couple of what I feel are less than stellar drafts. So you're looking at an organization whose mindset is one thing, but their reality maybe is something else entirely different, which I think is in part why the New York Giants hit free agency as hard as they did this offseason, much harder than they usually would have, because they knew, because of poor drafting, because of some of the other departures in free agency in recent years, that this is an organization that needs to win now, needs to try to win now, but was far from that, needless to say. So it was going to be important for the New York Giants in this 2014 NFL draft to hit it big with a few picks. Most importantly of all, I felt give Peyton Manning some help, some protection, some more pieces to work with on the offensive side of the Giants want to contend in 2014. When you look at their draft, and the results are in the description box down below, they set out to do that. 3 of their first 4 picks were dedicated to the offensive side of the ball. They gave Eli Manning some of the help that he needed. In terms of their best pick, I think their best pick was the first-round pick, Odell Beckham Jr., the wide receiver from LSU. There was some thought by me and maybe some other people that at the end of the day in the 2014 NFL draft, you might end up as a top 10 selection. So to get them at number 12 is pretty good value. And some people might say, well, they needed a tight end more, they needed an offensive lineman more. Look, Odell Beckham Jr. is another weapon, and as far as I'm concerned, you can never have too many weapons on offense, especially if you have a franchise quarterback who's getting up there in age. He's in his 30s. You need to win now. You need to give him as much help and protection as possible. And sometimes that protection could come via giving him more weapons to work with. I mean, were you really happy as a Giants fan heading into 2014 with Victor Cruz and Ruben Randall really as your 2 options at wide receiver? You know, what's so wrong with bringing in an Odell Beckham Jr., a guy who can play all over the place on offense and also can make a big impact as a return specialist on special teams? Their best value might have been getting Weston Richburg, the center from Colorado State, in round number 2. This was a guy that was maybe pegged as a late first-round pick, maybe an early second-round pick. So to get him there at pick 43 represented pretty good value. And I thought another good, solid example for the Giants in this draft of getting a best player available at a position of need. I always feel like that's the best way to go, is to be able to get the best player or just about the best player available at a position of need when you need to, especially if you're in the position of the Giants where you're in a win now state of mind. In terms of a pick that could surprise, I think it's Andre Williams, the running back from Boston College. Part of the reason he maybe dropped to the 4th round is the fact that he's not the fastest guy in the world by any stretch of the imagination, and he demonstrated zero ability to catch the ball out of the backfield at Boston College. But then again, I say a couple of things to that. Number 1, he wasn't really asked to. Number 2, he didn't really need to at Boston College. And number 3, part of the Giants' success over the years was when they had a thunder and lightning kind of backfield combination. And when you look at a guy like Brandon Jacobs, was he really known as a big-time pass catcher out of the backfield? No, he was a 4th-round pick out of Southern Illinois in 2005. He was a part of a couple of championship teams, that big thunder complement at running back. So to get a guy like Andre Williams around number 4 to fill that kind of Brandon Jacobs role, I thought was a good move for the New York Giants. Now, in terms of things I might second guess, I really didn't like their pick of Jay Bromley, the defensive tackle out of Syracuse in round 3. I understand you've lost guys like Took and Umanora and now Linval Joseph in free agency over the past couple of seasons, so you needed help on that defensive line. I just thought Bromley was a bit of a reach there in round number 3 when a guy like maybe a Will Sutton represented a much better value and a much better player at that time. I also question the fact that they didn't address tight end at all in this draft. Not once. And again, what's a way to protect your quarterback, your franchise quarterback? Offensive line help, running game, receivers on the outside, and then ultimately providing him with an effective short to intermediate option in the passing game at tight end. And I don't feel the Giants really have that. I was very surprised to see them not address that at any point in time in this draft. Maybe they did have patterns on a guy like Eric Ebron. I don't think they did because they might have had some concerns about immaturity and his focus on the game. But not to address it one time, even in a weak tight end class, I thought was very surprising. Overall, I look at this Giants draft. There are a couple of picks I liked. There are a couple of picks I really questioned. Thought it was kind of average for them. Not great, not terrible. It's a C draft, maybe a C+. I love the Beckham pick for them. I also like the Weston Richburg pick quite a bit. 2 picks designed to help out Eli Manning. And guys that both represented pretty good value based off of where they were taken. Again, I was surprised that they didn't go for any tight ends. I was also surprised maybe that they didn't go after another wide receiver. I really like the pick of Andre Williams for what the Giants are looking for him to do in round number 4. But Jay Bromley in the 3rd round was a bit of a reach. The safety they got in round 5, Berhe, is an eh. Devon Kennard in the 5th round, I'm like, eh. So they did some good things here, but they did some things I'm kind of like, eh. And as a result, I just feel like they kind of had an average draft. Now, maybe this average draft with a couple of guys coming in and contributing right away with as how aggressive the Giants were in free agency will help them contend in the 2014 in the NFC East. But I'm not so sure that it will.